May 23rd, 2016, Law Number 1795. Taking into consideration the increasing demand and production of genetically modified products in the Republic of Costa Rica, as well as various prominent scientific studies on the effect of those products in the human body, the Legislative Assembly of the Republic of Costa Rica decrees Law Regulation of Genetically Modified Products, GMOs in Costa Rica. Chapter 1 of the Introduction of the Law. Article 1. The present law regulates the introduction of genetically modified products into the Republic of Costa Rica, as well as the ones produced on international soil for human consumption. Article 2. Genetically modified products. A genetically modified product for purposes of national law is defined as organisms, i.e. plants, animals, or microorganisms, in which the genetic material, DNA, has been altered in a way that does not occur naturally by mating and or natural recombination. Chapter 2 of the Regulation and Distribution. Article 1. All genetically modified products that are sold in any establishment, like supermarkets and grocery stores, should be labeled as such, and they should be differentiated from organic products sold in the same establishment. Article 2. The cultivation of genetically modified products, as well as its treatment and care, should follow the regulation of the Ministry of Agriculture, National Production Council, and any other pertinent instance for that purpose. Article 3. All the imported GMOs shall be subjected not only to the regular check made by organic products, but also through biological check, in order to make sure that they comply with international standards of hygiene and consumption safety. Chapter 3 of the National Impact of Genetically Modified Products. Article 1. Any type of pollution, harm of other properties, or malpractice during the production of genetically modified products should be sanctioned in accordance to the law. In Article 2, any sort of demand or claim in regards to GMOs should be processed through the Ministry of Economy and the Consumer's Defense Office.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Genetically modified products defined by the World Health Organization as organisms like plants, animals, and microorganisms in which the genetic material, or DNA, has been altered in a way that does not occur naturally by mating and or natural recombination, has reshaped societies around the world in terms of world trade, international development, and global economies. Costa Rica is not exempt from the impact of GMOs since huge transnational companies like Monsanto and Del Monte have been exporting their products to this nation and importing them without any type of regulation or manuals for more than 2 decades. With that being stated, the need for a law and regulatory procedures for the growing of GMOs, its import and or export, and its biological state has become more than necessary in this little nation. The law in discussion regulates all of the aspects mentioned above and takes into account the fact that globalization leads to constant changes, and GMOs are not the exception. The Law N 1795-0, also known as GMOs laws, regulates the selling, transitioning, cultivation, and import of such products in the country. This law has not been constructed in order to favor either side of this controversial battle, but has actually taken both sides into consideration and has come up with a holistic resolution. The law constructing body has read and discussed different scientific studies, those being MIT studies on GMOs, Harvard studies on GMOs, and Stanford studies on GMOs as well. Arguments from corporate groups like Monsanto and environmental ones like Greenpeace and PETA have been heard during the building up of the law as well. It is important to remark that this law has taken into account advice from organizations like the World Health Organization and Pan American Health Organization, both of them to which Costa Rica reports annually, in order to fully comply with their national standards and regulations. This group is conscious that we cannot avoid future technologies, but we should regulate them so that they can work for the benefit of our citizens and not against them.
Okay, so now we're going to explain you a little bit about GMOs and the poster we made.
Okay, basically, it is a fact that people don't know, more than 70% of the people of Costa Rica don't know what exactly GMOs are. For this reason, we decided to do both a handout and a poster for people to understand what exactly are GMOs. Along with that, for the background of the law, we did presentations majorly explaining all what are GMOs and all the background information of the science, but we're not going to present that due to the time. Okay, basically for the poster gives you a general guide that it's really easy to read for people to get a general idea of what exactly are GMOs. First, it presents 4 common questions that are what are GMOs? GMOs are genetically modified foods in which they alter their DNA to create in a sense a better product as they define it. Nevertheless, we can see the advantages and disadvantages and decide for ourselves if it in fact is a better product. Then it states in what ways they are used and how common are the GMOs. People, when they hear words such as GMOs, believe, okay, this is not that common, but actually it is very common, and more than 80% of all the products have been altered in some way. Then it gives you the basic advantages that are the products last longer. In some cases, their flavor is better, or their flavor is sweeter or saltier, depending on what exactly the product is. Their appearance is much nicer, and they last longer. They don't seem like all rotten or like appear like black in the seasonal fruits. They create a larger profit since farmers can produce majorly in every season. They don't need like certain climates to actually produce them, and they don't need to waste money on the chemicals because just by altering the genes, they wouldn't be necessarily using them. And finally, there's a higher food production, as I said before. This is due to the fact that they don't depend on each season, but now they can be produced every day. The most common examples of genetic modified foods are fruits and vegetables along with wheat. There have been several modifications to wheat. Many claim that these modifications have led to allergies. That is obviously one of the huge disadvantages and the impact they've been doing on the people are consuming. Also, there's a huge environmental disadvantage where, in fact, the environment has also an impact. Like when you genetically modify foods and you plant that food on a certain soil, that soil and that piece of land has also an environmental impact, which is one of the biggest drawbacks of GMOs.
2 minutes.
Okay, the major country that produces GMOs and as well as consume it is the United States, which has 54.6 million hectares of land to produce GMOs. And majorly all those GMOs go into the consumption of the United States itself. Then Argentina with 18.0 million hectares. Then Brazil with 11.1 million hectares. And finally Canada with 6.1 million hectares of land that produces GMOs. Finally, the guide has several recommendations, and it's basically informing yourself what are GMOs, what are the impacts on yourself, and what are the impacts on the external environment. And for companies to regulate and let the people know, because it is a right of the people, it is a human right for them to know what exactly they're consuming.
And also, just to wrap it up, it's important to mention that currently Monsanto, the biggest GMO producer worldwide, is in negotiations with Bayers because they want to buy the company, and they offered $61 billion in order so that they can merge. And so as well, it's important to take into account both parts, and so that each citizen can get informed by him or herself. And so lastly, they can make decisions based on their own judgments and assessments. So we invite you to watch documentaries that we saw for the creation of this project, like Food Inc., as well as the justifications that companies like Monsanto give, so that you can, make an informed decision.
So as a conclusion, we want to say that as new technologies develop and new genetically modified organisms come into place, it is important to consider not only the advantages of having a better and longer lasting product, but also the disadvantages that GMOs bring, so that we can together create the necessary regulations for all these disadvantages and control what are GMOs in Costa Rica and globally. Thank you.
Thank you.